Okay, goeiemôre almal. So vandag doen ons die gedig Boekmerk. Okay, so a bookmark, it's a bookmark. So this is the poem, and I'm going to read it, and I think it's very important as matrics to be able to identify alliteratie, alliteration, assonantie, assonance, and the rhyme scheme on your own. But for most of these, you need to listen to the poem. Okay. Kinders met wange soos mossies, wat teen elke oggend stoei, hande altyd woedende vlerke, elke lyfie 'n seilende gesang, vlak bo die waterspieël van 'n klipvloergang. Vlytig stort die druppels slank oor haar uit, totdat sy verbaas die reuk van bitter soet jasmijn uit haar skooljare proe, waar sy ook kon môre en protesteer. Waarom is alles altyd ver? Waarom is alles altyd hier? Waarom moet ek leer van optrek aftrek deel, van dooie digters uit die toentertyd, en watter land sit waar, en waarom draai die son? Toe maak sy die dag weer oor. Met elke skoolklok werk sy namens die mossiekind. Kom ons pars die wind met wange soos soldaatjies, totdat elkeen net die geur van jasmijn kan boekmerk, teen die onheil van ons ellelange reis. So, well, actually, before we do that, just to briefly explain what the poem is basically about a teacher that's observing kids walking around. And then after a while, the teacher realizes she has to be the one who actively works with the kids for them to make like a special figurative bookmark to remember the good things of school. So that when you get older, when you think back, you can remember of these good times and it's your bookmark of school. So this is just the typography uiterlik. So later on we'll do the innerlik. So uiterlik just means literally what the poem looks like. So in this case it has 6 strofes, it has 6 stanzas, 30 versies, 30 verses. Geen hoofletters nie, no capital letters, alleenplasing. There's a lot of words, like, or not words, but sometimes sentences and stuff like that are purposely put on their own. So like in line 30, you would see ellelange reis. It's purposely put there. And then inkeping. So inkeping basically means these little spaces. So not everything starts exactly underneath each other. And what I think you can say it does in this poem is actually to indicate the movement of the kids walking around in school, because that is what the teacher's observing now. She's observing the kids walking around in school. So hoe kinders deur die skool beweeg. En dan enjambement, so wanneer een versieel oor na die ander een vloei, so it's enjambment, so that's basically when you're reading it, when one line flows into another, okay, so laat die gedig vloei, it makes like the poem flow, and that's really important as well in the way you read it. That's why I read it to you first. En dan beeld die kinders beweging uit, so this sort of fast movement, the enjambement, there are quite a lot of lines that flow into the other. It indicates, once again, the movement of the kids. So titel is die title, so we're looking at Boekmerk. So denotatief, letterlik, so literally what it means. 'n stukkie papier of karton wat jy op die bladsy of plek sit waar jy laaste gelees het. So literally it's a bookmark. It's a little piece of cardboard or paper that you put in the place where you last read. En dan konnotatief, figuurlik, so figuratively, 'n simboliese boekmerk, wanneer 'n mens terugdink aan iets, in die gedig, wanneer die kinders eendag aan hul skooljare terugdink, moet hulle onthou hoe lekker dit was. So it's like a symbolic bookmark. And this is like when you think back to something. And specifically in this poem, it is when the kids are going to think back to school one day and remember all the nice things and remember that it actually was nice. So we're going to start with strofe 1. So in hierdie strofe is die onderwyser 'n toeskouer. So in this stanza, the teacher is a spectator. It's important to know that because she does shift to something else. And also the reason I'm saying she is because in the poem they actually use pronouns sy en haar. So like her and she. So it's a female teacher. So this is not the whole stanza, but I just broke it up because there's quite a lot to say about this specifically. So kinders met wange soos mossie, so children with cheeks like sparrows. So a mossie is a small little sparrow. So kinders alleenplasing, beklemtoon die boodskap van die gedig gaan oor kinders. So putting that alone in a line, it's emphasizing the message of the poem. And that this poem, even though it's from the teacher's perspective, it's all about the kids. The focus is on the kids. Okay, so met wange soos mossies is 'n vergelyking, it's a comparison. So letterlik, literally, kinders se wange word met die van mossies vergelyk. So their cheeks, their chubby cheeks, because these are small kids, nah? So their chubby cheeks are being compared to the chubby cheeks of small sparrows. En figuurlik, die persoon is klein maar dapper. So figuratively, it just means that the person is small but very brave. Okay, so that is a mossie. As you can see, it's pretty small, or a sparrow. It's pretty small, it's quite cute. So now mossies, okay? So throughout this whole poem, the referring to mossies, okay, is intertextualiteit. So it's intertextuality. So basically when you refer to something else without specifically mentioning that it's from that book. In this case, it refers to the story of the sparrow in the Bible. Okay, this is the Afrikaans little part of the Bible, and this is the English one. So Matteus 10 vers 29-31 is 2 mossies nie vir 'n sent te koop nie, en tog sal nie een van hulle op die grond val sonder die wil van die Vader nie. Moet dan nie bang wees nie, julle is meer werd as mossies. The English one, not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it, so don't be afraid. You are more valuable to God than a whole flock of sparrows. And basically what it sort of says is that in biblical times, sparrows weren't like seen, as like a very highly thing to have. You can buy one for like a cent, and that's obviously very cheap. But what it basically says is that like Jesus or God sees worth in everything, even the small little sparrow. So even though humans might not have seen his worth or its worth, God does. And this is the same with, like in this poem, the mossies refers to the kids. God sees value in everything, no matter how small it is. Okay, so no matter how small the child is, there's a lot of value in this child. So we're still with strofe 1. So wat teen elke oggend stoei, it just means like that it wrestles against every morning. So letterlik, literally, it means there are a lot of kids that are moving through the corridors of the school. So obviously, and I think most of you know this, you push each other, you bump into each other. It's sort of like a battleground, okay? So you're like wrestling your way past all the other kids. But figuratively, kinders is nie so lus vir school nie. The kids aren't really in the mood to actually go to school. So figuratively, they're fighting against going to school. So hande altyd woedende vlerke. So woedende just means moving rapidly. So they say this is klanknalbotsing because you can hear the movement, hoe dit beweeg. And then hande altyd woedende vlerke. It's basically saying that the kids' hands are like the wings of a sparrow that's flying, okay, moving rapidly. So metafoor, kinders se hande beweeg so vinnig soos mossie se vlerke. And this is just like, this is literally obviously what it means, the metaphor, but it also just means like, they're still small, they move around a lot, and I think if you know any small kids, if you have younger brothers or sisters, you would know that they use their hands quite a lot to explain things, and they move it around all the time. So elke lyfie is seilende gesang. It basically means like each body is sailing song. So it's a metaphor, it's a metaphor. Hulle klein liggaampies beweeg vinnig tussen die gange terwyl hulle praat. So literally what this metaphor means is that their small little bodies move rapidly in between the corridors while they are talking. So obviously as these kids are walking, they are talking. Okay, and then lyfie. The L just stands for letterlik, so literally, die kinders is klein, so lyfie literally refers to the fact the kids are small. En figuurlik, figuratively, mens voel liefdevol teenoor klein kinders. You feel a lot of love towards like small kids. Like it's really true though that in the news, if you hear something bad that happens to a small child, everyone reacts very passionately about it because they're very upset by it. And then gesang, a gesang refers to a praislied, so a praise song. Okay, so die onderwysers sien elke kind as 'n pryslied. Sy is dankbaar vir elke kind. So this is sort of figuratively also what it means, is that the teacher sees each and every child as like a praise song. And this means she's thankful for every child, and she obviously thinks highly of each and every child that is, in her class or in her school. So then we have an aandagstreep there. So I don't know what you just call it. You just call it a dash in English. But in Afrikaans we call it an aandagstreep because what it's doing is it focuses your attention on what is about to follow. So 'n klemtoon die reëls wat volg, so it's emphasizing the lines that follow, and in this case it's where the kids are moving, waar die kinders beweeg. Okay. I think there's supposed to be inkeping and I didn't do it, but it's okay. So like one more little space that's actually supposed to be there. So vlak bo waterspieël. Waterspieël is water surface, and in this case, using a waterspieël just means like you can see your reflection in the water. So kan jy weerkaatsing sien. So it's just like there. So if there was like anyone there or a bird at the top, you would see the reflection of the bird. Klipvloergang just refers to the corridor and like the material that it's made of. It's sort of like that old, like rock type floor. And then line 6 and 7. Die gang van die skool blink. Die kinders beweeg oor die gang net soos mossies wat oor die water beweeg. So the first thing is just referring to the corridor as a waterspieël, as like a water reflection. It just means it's very clean. And it also just refers to the kids actually moving, across the corridor the way a sparrow would fly, or sparrows would fly across the water. So now we're going to strofe 2. So in hierdie strofe kry ons die onderwyser se oorgang van toeskouer tot deelnemer. So this is important. In the stanza is where we see the teacher's transition from being a spectator to actually being like actively involved. Okay, being a participant. So veilig stort die druppels klank oor haar uit. It basically just says that, actively and very fast, these droplets of sound is showering all over her. So it's personifikasie. Die klanke van die kinders word oor haar uitgestort. Sy hoor die kinders wat in die gange beweeg en gesels oral om haar. So it just says the sounds of the kids, are like showered over her. She can hear it all around her as they are moving in the corridors. She's sort of there in the middle. She's observing everything. Well, she's actively taking part as well, but she's seeing everything as well. And then veilig just means active or fast. And then verbaas. Sy is verras wanneer sy aan haar eie skool daar begin dink. Die klanke herinner haar. So here's where we officially start seeing the transition. By hearing all of these sounds, she actually starts thinking of her own school days. It takes her back to her own school days. Die reuk van bittersweet jasmijn. So basically says the smell of bittersweet jasmine. So sy onthou haar skooljare, empathie teenoor kinders, sy sit haarself in die kinders se skoene. So she remembers her school years. And this is where her empathy for the kids really starts. And empathy is obviously putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And this is what the teacher's actively doing now. She's putting herself in the shoes of her learners. So bittersweet would be an oxymoron, because it's like lekker maar sleg, good but bad. And in this case, when it refers to school specifically, the teacher had good times at school and bad times at school. And that is what it refers to. And then jasmijn is jasmine. So it's that little flower. So jasmijn, tuinplant met aangename reuk en geur. So it's like a garden plant with a very nice smell and flavor. And it just says it's a sweet, rich fragrance associated with love, gift from God. So it actually, it's someone with the name Jasmine. It means gift from God. And this obviously refers to the kids as well. The kids are a gift from God. So now, die reuk en proe. Reuk means smell and proe means taste. Okay, so we're using two different senses here. So that is synesthesie, reuk en smaak sintuig. Wanneer waarneming op meer as een sintuig aanspraak maak. So what it's just saying is, like, synesthesie is basically when it refers to, like, observing something and using more than one sense to describe it. So in this case, she says she can smell the bittersweet jasmine and taste it. Okay? So it's reuk en smaak, it's smell and taste. Waar sy ook kon môre en protesteer. So môre means matter. So these two lines basically just saying, sy kan onthou hoe sy ook oor skool gekla het. So she can remember that she also complained about school. She was also not like every day happy to go to school. She also sometimes wrestled against school. And then the dubbelpunt, the colon, verduideliking volg, kry lys met kinders se klagtes. So there's an explanation that's going to follow. And in this case, the explanation is the complaints from the kids about school. Okay, and I think they might look familiar to a lot of you as well. I think a lot of you might have the same complaints. So now we're going to strofe 3, onderwyser is deelnemer. So now, stanza 1, she was an observer and, spectator. 2, we started to see the transition from spectator to participant. And now from stanza 3, the teacher is a participant. Sy is 'n deelnemer. Okay, so these are all the questions. The first one is, waarom is alles altyd ver? Why is everything always far away? Waarom is alles altyd hier? Why is everything always here? So lines 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So basically the whole stanza. Okay? Hierdie is dieselfde herhalende vrae of klagtes wat die spreker ook op skool gehad het. Al die vrae waarop die kinders en die onderwyser nog steeds antwoorde soek. So these are exactly the same complaints that the teacher also had when she was at school. And she still doesn't have the answers to them. And obviously the kids are also looking for the answers. They're looking for the reasons, So why is everything always like far away? Why is it always here? And then you go to, waarom moet ek leer van opdrag, afdrag, deel? So it says, why do I have to learn about the following things? So opdrag, afdrag, deel, well, let's just do waarom first. So herhaling van waarom, beklemtoon die vrae van die kinders, hulle soek antwoorde, redes. It just emphasizes the repetition. It just emphasizes the question that kids have and the fact they're looking for answers. They're looking for reasons. So opdrag, afdrag, deel refers to wiskunde, mathematics. Dooie digters, at die toentertyd, so basically dead poets, from long ago. It refers to languages. In watter land sit waar en waarom draai die son, and what country sits where, and why does the sun why does the sun what do you call that thing when it goes around? You know what I'm saying. So that refers to aardrykskunde, which is geography. Okay, now specifically, obviously we know at school you have quite a few more subjects, but she specifically refers to these ones, and the kids specifically ask about these ones. And what that could possibly mean is the following. Kan moontlik die vakke wees waarmee die onderwyser gesukkel het en die kinders nou mee sukkel of nie van nou nie. It could possibly refer to the subjects that the teacher struggled with, the subject that the kids struggle with now, and the subjects that the kids don't understand why they have that. I think it's a very personal thing, like I thought there was value in learning about the poets, but you might not, because that's not your passion. So I really think it is about like whether you like a subject or not. Then toentertyd just refers to a very long time ago. And then die herhalende vrae bind die gedig tot 'n eenheid. So these repetitive questions, it sort of binds the poem as a whole. Okay. So that's strofe 3. So now we're going to strofe 4, stanza 4. Onderwyser gebruik haar herinneringe as leier om die kinders vir haar te help. So what the teacher's doing now, still actively a participant, what she's doing is she's using her memories to try and help the kids who are in front of her. Okay, which is like, I think that's a really nice thing for a teacher to do, or what all teachers should do. Okay, so toe maak sy die dag weer oor. So it basically says she's going to start the day over. So she started sort of on like a negative space, which she was like, what? And now she's like, I have to actively do something. I have to help these kids. Die onderwyser verander haar houding, so she changes her attitude. Sy begin nou anders dink, she starts to think a little bit differently. Sy weet sy moet die kind positief beïnvloed, she knows she has to influence the child in a positive way. Sy wil vir die kinders dae gee wat hulle altyd sal onthou. She wants to give the kids days that they will always remember. Sy besef ook hoe belangrik haar rol in 'n kind se lewe is. She also realizes how important her role is in a child's life. And I think all of us can say this, like, a teacher's role, and specifically in subjects I think that you love and you might want to go further with, it's really important, a teacher's role. So I know, for example, I had really good Afrikaans and English teacher, and those were my 2 favorite subjects. I'm not saying my other teachers were bad, they were really good, but something that made me even more passionate about languages was my teachers. Okay, so then we have an aandagstreep, so beklemtoon die versdeels wat volg, it's emphasizing the lines that follow. So met elke skoolklok werk sy namens die mosiekind. So it says now with every school bell, she works for the sparrow child, which obviously refers to the small kids in front of her. So elke les wat sy nou aanbied, spreek tot die kinders en word vir hulle uitgewerk sodat hulle daarby baat. So she realized now that, like each lesson that she does, she has to work out specifically thinking about the kids and how it would benefit them. So not doing it because she likes the way it's done. She has to take like the kids' opinions and thoughts and the way they learn into consideration to make it like productive for them as well. And then mosiekind. Die kinders is net so belangrik soos die klein mossies in God se heelal. This just refers to the fact that the kids are just as important as the small sparrows in God's world. And this obviously also means like to the teacher, like these kids might be small and they're still learning, but their role is so important in the world as well, and she actively has to help them. And then we have a dubbelpunt. Beklemtoon die verduideliking moet gaan volg hoe sy die kinders positief gaan beïnvloed. So what it's following is an explanation, and this explanation specifically is how she's going to influence the kids in a positive way. So strofe 5, onderwyser is deelnemer, she's still a participant. So kom ons pars die wind met wange soos soldaatjies. If you translate it, it just basically says, like, let's cut or press the wind with cheeks like soldiers. So ons refers to die onderwyser saam met die leerders, saam berei hulle die kind vir op die lewe. So actively the teacher, she says, we have to do this together. It's myself and you, it's not just from me, it's not just from you. We have to work together, the kids and the teacher, to help them to get through everything, to help them to, equip them to get through the difficult parts of life and know how to handle it. So pars is press, it also means cut, like it's cut and press. Blomme, en in die geval jasmijn, kan gepars word om 'n boekmerk te maak. So it basically just says in this case flowers, and obviously in this poem we're specifically talking about jasmine, can be used like, cut and press to actually make bookmarks. Nou met wange soos soldaatjies is 'n vergelyking en comparison. Leerders moet soos soldate opgelei word om gereed te wees wat hulle op hulle wag in die lewe. So it just says here, we have to prepare the kids, or the teacher has to prepare the kids like soldiers for what is going to wait for them in the world. So obviously I think soldiers, they get really intense training and it prepares them for most worst case scenarios. Die mosiekind moet nou 'n dapper soldaat wees en toegerus wees om die lewe met sy swaar kry en probleme suksesvol aan te vat. So it just says here, the small child has to turn into a brave soldier that can actually tackle all the problems that the world may give you, or life might give you, all the bad parts. This child has to change to a soldier to be able to cope with those things and be able to handle them. And then lines 25 and 26, what they mean letterlik, literally, is Morsie se wange lyk soos soldaatpette met flappe wanneer hulle vlieg. So literally what it's saying is that the morsies, the sparrows, when they fly, because this is them, it says sort of like, it almost looks like these soldier caps. So it's basically also saying like the morsie goes over to soldier. There's some resemblance in the two. And then figuurlik, onderwyser kan leerders gereed maak om deur die moeilike tye wind te kom. So it just says the teacher can get the kids ready to get through the difficult times. The difficult times in this case would refer to the wind, because it's like, let's cut the wind with cheeks like soldiers. Then strofe 6, die kinders sal nou voorbereid wees teen die eise van die lewe. So in stanza 6 we get to the conclusion that the kids would now be prepared to go up against all the difficult parts of life. So line 27, 28, totdat elkeen net die geur van jasmijn kan boekmerk. So it says, we're going to keep on doing this. I'm going to keep on helping them as a teacher. Get them ready so that one day they can just bookmark the flavor of jasmine. So obviously referring to the good things. So boekmerk figuurlik, eendag kan die leerder terugblaai na daardie dae van vrede en geluk en onskuld. Hulle kan goeie van skool onthou. So this is what it's just saying, is someday the child can turn the page back in time and think about the good things, about the happiness and, the innocence and the good days of school. That's what they can refer back to. Onheil, okay, it basically means evil. It refers to daar is ook slegte tye in 'n mens se lewe en om terug te dink aan iets moois kan mens deur die slegte tye help. So it's just saying regardless of where you are in life, you will go through difficult times. It's impossible to avoid that. But it is always nice to have something good to think back to. In this case, the teacher wants to make that bookmark of school. The kids can think back and they can be like, I can do this. I have this bookmark. I have this good memory. Yeah. Van ons alle lange reis. So it says life is a very long journey. So alleenplasing. Beklemtoon die lang lewensreis baie lang. So it is emphasizing the long life we have in front of us. It's pretty long. You're going to have a lot of bad things happen to you, and you should be able to cope with it, and the teachers should have helped you to sort of develop sort of those coping mechanisms or those good memories that you can think back to. So yeah, that's the end of the poem. So then the boodskap, the message of the poem. Onderwysers speel 'n belangrike rol in kinders se lewe, so teachers play an important role in kids' lives. Onderwysers moet kinders help om die boekmerk te maak, so teachers have to help kids to make this bookmark. Onderwysers moenie kinders net om feite leer nie, maar ook voorberei vir die lewe buite skool. So this is quite important, and it just says, teachers should not just be teaching theory, and they should be helping kids to learn about the practice of life, if that makes sense. So doing the practical things, helping them in small ways. Obviously, we know theory is an important part, and a lot of times you need to know the theory to actually do the practice. But sometimes where schools fail, and I always refer back to Harry Potter when Dolores Umbridge is the principal or the acting principal, and she basically says theory is more important than practice, but that is not true. You need theory and practice to sort of thrive in life after school. So the teacher needs to actively do this as well. It shouldn't just be about theory. It should be combining the theory and practice to help the child later in life. And then typography innerlijk, so now it's what the poem sort of looks like, or what happens in the poem inside, inside the poem. So daar is progressie in die gedig, there's progression. Onderwyser gaan van toeskouer na deelnemer. The teacher, it really is not just about the teacher, but in this case the progression we do see is that the teacher goes from spectator to participant. So van passief, kyk net, so from passive, just watching, to actief, sy moet die kinders help. So from passive to active, from watching to knowing she has to help the kids. There's also some progression in the kids as well, where they have to go from being morsies, little sparrows, to actually become the soldiers. And then the thema, die invloed wat onderwysers op hul leerders kan hê. So the theme is the influence teachers can have on their learners. En onderwysers moet hulle invloed op 'n positiewe manier gebruik. And teachers have to use the influence in a positive way. And then we have the stemming, and this is the tone of the poem. So it's quite positive, it's positief, liefdevol, it's very loving, and specifically a love for kids. And then also optimisties. Okay, so I know those are two are sort of the same, positief and optimisties. But very optimistic, knowing that the teacher being optimistic about teaching and helping the kids and equipping them with dealing with their struggles later in life. So yeah, that's it. I hope it helps a little bit. And yeah, tot ziens almal.